Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief retelling of the movie Troll. Enjoy the movie. With his daughter Nora, Tobias is visiting the troll peaks in the Norwegian highlands of Romsdalen. According to a folk story, 13 trolls once attended a wedding here, but they were so inebriated that they became mountains and lost all sense of time. Tobias finds it painful to hear that Nora believes she is too old for fairy tales and tells her that you have to believe in something in order to be able to see it. 20 years later, Nora is an archaeologist leading her team on a digging trip off the Atlantic coast of northwestern Norway. Since they haven't discovered anything in 6 months and their money is running short, the majority of them are ready to give up, but Nora is tenacious and keeps trying. When she eventually finds the dinosaur skull, her perseverance pays off, and the crew celebrates. A construction crew is excavating the Dovre mountains in order to build a new railway in the meanwhile. Activists opposed to this kind of environmental degradation have drawn a lot of attention to this, yet their voices go unanswered. Finally, the tunnel is started by setting off the explosives, but before long, something snarls in the mountains, causing a collapse from which not all of the workers can escape quickly enough. The Norwegian military instantly detects this occurrence and the resulting seismic activity, and they dispatch a reconnaissance plane to look into it. Sigrid, who oversees the cameras on those planes, works fast to compile a set of images that she presents to her superiors. They determine that this is significant enough to notify Prime Minister Barrett. While traveling to the base, Barrett is notified of all the destruction brought about by unidentified troops and given the photos they took, which, in the opinion of her advisor Andreas, resemble footprints. Although she finds it humorous, Barrett sees it as impractical, so she assigns Andreas 2 tasks: to keep this knowledge out of the public and to locate some scientific specialists who could assist him with this issue. A little while later, Nora is being picked up by a helicopter during her celebration and asked to accompany it to a national security meeting. Upon Nora's arrival at the base, Andreas greets her and brings her to a confidential conference where Barrett, senior military officials, and a few other scientists are debating potential causes for the occurrence in the mountains. Because dinosaurs are gone and thus couldn't have caused this, people don't take Nora seriously when she poses as a paleontologist. The reports thus far seem to support the notion that the cause is geological in nature, even if the team does not completely rule out the potential of a military assault from another nation. Images of a crater and other geographical features show up on the screen, leading scientists to conjecture about things like sinkholes and underground gas pockets. When Nora stops them to remind out that those craters are obviously footprints, they don't take her seriously since, again, footprints would imply monsters, which is a ridiculous notion. Sigrid interrupts again, this time via breaking into an activist's phone and discovering live video of the event. Although the devastation is rather unsettling to witness, Nora forces Sigrid to play the film again, this time more slowly, before the others can return to their gas theory notions. A distinct animal-like howling sound can be heard in the background, and a massive, enigmatic humanoid figure can be seen in the shadows among the falling rocks. A retired couple in Lesja, meanwhile, are perplexed about what's wrong with their dog as it won't stop barking. The couple quickly hides in their basement before everything collapses and the electricity goes out when the entire home begins to shake. The couple emerges from their entirely damaged house, the dog, at least, when the shaking stops. Back at the base, Nora observes that the leaders continue to deny that the tracks might have been made by a monstrous thing and that, whatever it is, they should be taking action against it rather than bickering and sitting on their asses for hours on end. After being pleased by Nora's demeanor, Barrett appoints her as the official scientific advisor and asks her to accompany Andreas to Lesja in order to investigate the most recent occurrence. When Andreas questions Nora about how she got into paleontology when they are in the helicopter, she tells him that she has always enjoyed the outdoors and that her innocent fascination with fairy tales developed into a desire to search for the genuine monsters that live underneath. Her father taught origin mythology and folklore, but as he became older, he lost his ability to tell fact from fiction. Her mother passed away when she was 10 years old. For this reason, Nora hasn't seen Tobias in a long time. When they get to their location, stunned by the destruction to the countryside, Nora interrupts Andreas, who says he wants to be a writer and is intrigued by the potential that this occurrence has otherworldly causes. Captain Christopher welcomes Nora and shows her the traces that originated across the river, went across the valley, and then continued 2 miles south into the mountains before coming to a stop. The military is already protecting the area. After thoroughly searching the area, the troops were unable to locate any further hints. The elderly couple is approached by Nora with some inquiries, but their view is limited by a massive moving figure that obscures the sun. But something did reach their ears, a deafening wail that resembled a melancholy tune. After that, when Nora examines the damage more closely, she discovers an odd, strong odor that she chooses to refer to as hypernature. She searches for organic remnants using UV light as well, but all she discovers are rocks and dirt. When the footprints abruptly end and the thermal scanner displays just mountains instead of any indications of life, Nora requests to be carried there. Nora wonders if this monster can camouflage because it's too enormous to conceal or vanish. Though she's still not convinced, Nora is beginning to have some thoughts, so she brings Christopher and Andreas to meet Tobias, who pulls out a gun when he notices people on his land, particularly an armed soldier. Tobias agrees to let them in after Nora helps him realize that this is the daughter he hasn't seen in years, despite the fact that he needs to put on some pants first. Paperclips and study papers abound in Tobias's home, demonstrating his fixation on the fabled troll monster. He starts to talk about all of his thoughts about trolls being real and witnesses being silenced, but Nora interrupts him and tells him to focus on the tape she is going to show him because she believes it has some clues. He is the one who knows these mountains the best, after all. But Tobias believes that this footage supports his troll theory, and when Nora points out that if trolls were real, scientists would have discovered their DNA long ago, he reminds her that all the mythical creatures were exterminated when Norway was Christianized, and he was thrown into the loony bin just as he was about to reveal the whole truth. He believes that those in authority have always known, and that trolls are actually rather intelligent creatures, despite the fact that fairy tales portray them as malevolent and stupid. Tobias is too eager to listen to concerns and joins the team to carry out the research even if Nora finds what she's hearing to be unbelievable. Tobia observes right away that the terrain is incorrect and doesn't match the charts when they get to the spot where the tracks halt. He adds that it seems like they are going on an adventure once more with his daughter, but Nora isn't interested in a reconciliation of any type. It turns out that both father and daughter were right as they smell hypernature for the first time and the sky darkens as the mountain behind them opens its eye. Since the monster can blend in with its surroundings, it may pass for a mountain, which explains why the topography is incorrect. The creature is, in fact, a troll. The group flees to the aircraft as the troll gets up, shouting at them and displaying its powerful body. However, they are still able to capture the troll on video, and when the base receives the message, they are unable to refute the reality. To let the base know what they've discovered, Christopher leads the gang to his military camp. Tobias stops Nora to inform everyone that the unknown creature she refers to is actually a troll that is disturbed by development in the mountains, which he views as a parody of nature. Nora keeps using the term unknown creature so as not to appear insane. Nora requests more time, but the leaders don't listen to her either since they believe he is insane and throw him out. They will go ahead and plan a military operation because they are concerned about the security of their nation. After that, Tobias tells Nora that he understands this isn't a fairy tale and that this isn't a troll that will just be forced back by weapons and sunshine, which makes her alter her mind. Nora is upset with her dad for spoiling everything and wants to go. Weapons will just make the troll more irate since it has woken up alone and is afraid, and nature always pushes back. After Nora acknowledges his correctness and decides to remain, the only thing left to do is persuade Christopher to bring them along. After considerable persuasion from Nora, he agrees to conceal the three in his helicopter as long as they swear to obey his commands, after first refusing to. By the time the entire military effort reaches Heidel, night has fallen over the area. Tobias and Nora ultimately make up while waiting for the troll to emerge because they are reminded of the old fairy stories they used to tell each other about their travels. A little later, the troll appears, but as soon as he gets close enough, he stops moving, and Tobias is certain the creature is aware of their presence. Ignoring Tobias's warnings that firing at the troll would just infuriate it, the soldiers start fire, but the explosions and bullets have little effect and the troll only retaliates as Tobias had anticipated. The troll starts destroying everything in its path, including the cameras that were sending the operation to the main headquarters, and everyone starts to flee. Tobias reveals that the troll most likely smelt the blood from the soldier's wounds when it reached down and grabbed the soldier to feed. The squad had hidden behind a tree with the injured soldier. Tobias chooses to approach the troll and take a pleasant approach, while Nora, Andreas, and Christopher prefer to flee. To everyone's surprise, the troll truly stops moving and responds to Tobias's kind remarks with subdued moans, but sadly, not every soldier received the memo. When the troll turns to counterattack, a vehicle opens fire on it once again, inadvertently hitting Tobias in the process. When the troll leaves, Nora runs to her father's side, and Tobias murmurs, "The palace, the king, home," pleading with his daughter to hold onto her faith before he passes away. In an attempt to block out the agony and find a solution, Nora occupies herself by going over Tobias' study when they arrive back to the base. She is told the army is preparing for an airstrike, but for the time being they have lost sight of the troll when Andreas and Christopher stop by to see how she is doing. Nora believes that the outcome of this attack will be the same as the previous one, thus they will need to be creative. Although trolls are said to dislike sunlight in fairy tales, this one has been observed emerging during the day. The second hint that they have comes from Tobias's comment that the Christianization of Norway exterminated the trolls, which gives Nora a notion. They get in touch with Barrett and the others and let them know that bells are what they should be using because legend has it that trolls used to hurl rocks at churches when they heard the bells. The leaders find this absurd, so Christopher needs to intervene and tell them that they need alternatives because nothing has worked thus far. Barrett then grudgingly agrees to let them go with the idea. Shortly after, the troll reappears, approaching the Hunderfossen family park and sending the audience into complete terror. As everyone starts to flee, with the exception of a little girl who wants to observe the beast, Christopher and Nora arrive in a helicopter and pilot a whole hover that is loaded with enormous bells. As the bells ring, they encircle the troll, and it turns out that Nora was correct. The noise does damage the troll's hearing. But the troll also attacks without hesitation and self-defense, striking the helicopters and causing them to crash. Unexpectedly, the troll grabs the helicopter to save the little girl just as it is going to collapse on top of her and flees. The fact that this occurred in such a prominent place has made the troll and its journey to the capital city widely known. Every nation's newscasts report on the tragedy, and social media users share phone-recorded footage that becomes viral. When the squad gets back to the base, a vengeful Barrett tosses Nora out of the base and dismisses her when she explains that the bells did function and that they should try again from a new perspective. As Nora is leaving, she runs into Christopher, who says he believes Barrett is making a mistake and that he will always be there for her. The military officials inform Barrett about certain potentially harmful missiles that aren't yet formally approved in the conference room. Andreas argues that such weapons shouldn't even be considered, and Barrett is shocked that she didn't know about this. Nevertheless, this just gets him thrown out of the room. Reassuring Nora that they are leaving the city, he chooses to resign and rejoin her on his way out after realizing he won't be taken seriously. A short while later, Barrett makes an official appearance on television to declare a state of emergency. She asks the populace to work together while their military assume command to get everything ready for the next operation and ensure their safe evacuation. While trapped in traffic with Andreas, Nora continues to pore over Tobias' study in the same automobile. The word sending appears often on the pages, along with a reference to a gatekeeper. Andreas remarks that this may be Rickard Sending, the royal palace's Lord Chamberlain. Suddenly, Nora realizes that Tobias mentioned king, palace, home prior to his passing, and she decides they must visit the royal palace. After Andreas drives them there, the guards halt them at the gate, but Sending quickly arrives to let them in since he knew that eventually Tobias or someone connected to him would turn there. Even though Tobias despised him, Sending says he still admired him and that his perseverance made him one of the select few who figured out the palace's hidden mystery. Building a palace on the residence of another king was formerly thought to bring good fortune, and it turns out that this specific castle was constructed on the site where the Troll King had resided. When Sending reveals that the Christianization of Norway slaughtered anything that disagreed with their beliefs, they ambushed the royal troll family and only spared one kid to entice the king into the mountain. Nora and Andreas are led to a tunnel full with troll bones. They left it for dead there, locking it within a cave. When Tobias discovered all of this 12 years ago, Sending put him in the lunatic asylum to protect the secret. Nora is incensed because he feels horrible about it, but still thinks it's the correct thing to do. But Nora knows Tobias was right. The Troll King is heading home to the palace, and they need to put an end to it, so now isn't the time for a fight. As Nora explores the bones, she discovers that her UV light is causing damage to them, proving that the legends about sunshine were accurate after all. The troll has been spotted during the day, but the clouds and mountains have prevented them from seeing it in the full light of day. Nora asks Christopher for assistance after Andreas points out that they are powerless over the sun. Christopher will set up a unique trap while Nora and Andreas entice the troll to it. Barrett authorizes the launch of the missiles as the troll arrives in the city and the military attacks fail to stop it once more. They must find a method to gain time because Sigrid phones Andreas to alert him that the leaders are about to fire those missiles. While Christopher is setting up alarms around the city, Andreas begs Sigrid to attempt to hack into the army system to halt the launch. This prompts all of his soldier pals to come to his aid in setting up the trap. In order to get the troll to leave the palace, Nora and Andreas will drive the largest truck they own throughout the city, and Sending assists by requesting the guards to place one of the troll's skulls on it. Sigrid needs a few tries to get access to the system, but once she does, she quickly halts the missiles, providing Nora and Andreas with the necessary time. They eventually take off and show the skull on the back of the truck, which prompts the troll to yell in rage and pursue them as intended as it gets closer. When Christopher gets a call from Nora informing him that they are on their way, he feels compelled to give his warriors a pep talk to keep them courageous until the monster eventually shows up. When Nora and Andreas finally make it to the highway following a long day of insane driving through the streets of Oslo, they unintentionally misplace the skull. Before the troll realizes that it is reflected in a structure, it pauses sprinting to pick it up and lets forth a heartbreaking mournful sigh for its offspring. The troll is startled as it tries to touch the broken glass, and the unexpected shattering noise sends the skull crashing into a million pieces. The troll is enraged and roars in pain, causing Nora to experience sadness at being the last of its kind. As the creature pursues them in retaliation, Nora returns to her initial strategy of driving away and attempting to avoid the damage the troll is wreaking as much as possible. After Sigrid's hacking is found at the base, her computer is taken away so that the system may be restarted. Soon after, Nora and Andreas arrive at the location of the trap, and they exit the truck to lure the troll to the center as it approaches the car. When the troll tries to tread on Nora next, the soldiers stop it in its tracks and surround it with dozens of UV lamps, which begin to burn. As the missile-carrying aircraft approaches, the pilot pauses upon spotting any humans in the area. The surgery is essentially cancelled when Sigrid punches the bumbling moron who doesn't give a damn about his countrymen during a dispute about whether or not to abort. Christopher's warriors are already celebrating their triumph as Barrett and the other base personnel watch the troll slowly die on their screen. Nevertheless, Nora cuts the power to save the life since she can't bear to hear or witness such suffering. The soldiers prepare to fire, but Nora intervenes as well, and then she approaches the troll in the same manner as her father and politely requests that it return to the safety of the mountains. The troll considers what she said as it looks at her, but before it can respond, the sun rises, burning the troll until nothing is left except debris. When Andreas makes jokes regarding the name of this new hill or monument, Nora suggests Tobias Boulder as everyone celebrates their triumph. A little later, Barrett enters and compliments Nora for her efforts. Reminding the Prime Minister that he resigned and declared his intention to become a writer, Andreas muses to himself as he and Nora leave, wondering if there are any more animals concealed in Dovre. Meanwhile, behind a mound of boulders, something is beginning to move deep within the mountains.